Hello, my name is Peter Prose and I'm a Global Solutions Engineer at InCountry. When a company decides to integrate a cloud-hosted application with the InCountry platform, one of the most important decisions to make is which integration model is required by the legislation or company policy that governs the data residency requirement. These requirements typically contain mandates on where the regulated data can be stored, where it can be processed, and whether or not it is viewable from outside the country of origin. Based on these three parameters, InCountry has defined three data residency models: replicated, restricted, and redacted. In today's video, we will focus on the redacted model. In the standard cloud-hosted application architecture, all of the data is stored and processed in the cloud and can be viewed by anyone with sufficient application permissions, regardless of which country they are attempting to access the data from. In the redacted model, there is a requirement that the regulated data only be stored inside the country of origin. Therefore, it is necessary to store a one-way hash on the cloud server outside the country in place of the regulated data. Furthermore, the cross-border transfer of regulated data for processing and viewing is not permitted. Whenever records that contain regulated data are created, updated, or deleted, the request must go directly from the application interface inside the country to the in-country point of presence inside the country. When a user inside the country wants to view the regulated data, it must read the data from the in-country data store. The data cannot be transferred outside the country for processing, so any server-side processing must be re-implemented as serverless functions. These serverless functions can perform simple validations and manipulation of regulated data fields and then return non-regulated values, like a true-false, to the cloud application server. Due to the effort required for implementing serverless functions for all the necessary workflows, it is very important to define what is regulated data as narrowly as possible in the redacted model. As an example, this diagram shows a typical client-side integration using the InCountry REST API. When a user makes a request to create a record containing regulated data, that request must essentially be split into two separate requests. One request that writes the regulated data to the in-country point of presence inside the country, and another request that writes the non-regulated data and a one-way hash in place of the regulated data to the cloud application outside the country. Later on, if a user inside the country wants to view this data on screen, then it can make a call out to the in-country point of presence to retrieve the data and render it in the user interface. If there is a server-defined workflow that requires validation or manipulation of the regulated data, then the cloud application can invoke a serverless function that has been pre-registered on the in-country point of presence and receive the success-failure response once the action is taken. In the redacted model, the key to compliance is ensuring that regulated data is stored in the country of origin and never leaves for processing or viewing. We hope you enjoyed this video, and please be sure to check out our videos on the replicated and restricted models.